So today, what I'm going to touch on is I'm going to give a presentation around Queensland government based on Queensland series of different Queensland government data sets to identify the key issues that Queensland as a state is facing. Uh, just with the recent election, with the LNP getting in, and how many years Labor's been in, what has the government performed well in the last sort of 25 years through the period of 97 to 22, because that's where our data set is. Um, and then sort of just diving in there from a very much a centralist approach and just sort of looking at the pros and cons and the areas that need work and development. Now, this series will consist of a couple of different presentations. So if you're watching in from YouTube, be sure to see the next tutorial or the next presentation um, that will be in addition to this. Basically, what I'll be doing is I'll be going onto the Queensland Government Open Data Portal, retrieving some data and analysing what sort of happened in different sectors and different areas of government to determine where the current economic problems are in Queensland. And as I said, what the government have done well. Okay, so next we're going to go through what we'll be covering throughout this analysis. So we're going to be going through Queensland criminal offence numbers, which is the first data set we'll be looking into. That's what I'll be covering today. We're going to address the public housing issue. What are the numbers looking like? Are they increasing for people looking for public housing? Is the rate of homelessness affecting that? What the government needs to do to ensure it addresses this issue, if it's present. Queensland Queensland criminal offence numbers will be looking at sort of all the different areas of offences um, and sort of pinpointing where the government has performed pretty well, in what years what under what leader, and what really needs a bit of attention moving forwards in the future. So we'll also look into government spending in later sessions over the coming weeks or months. We will sort of address government spending across a range of different sectors, and what does this had on the Queensland economy. We're going to conduct a historical analysis to determine what the Queensland government has done well and what they haven't done as well. What's been positive, what's been negative, and what's sort of just been in the middle, neutral, where it sort of doesn't hasn't really improved, but hasn't really gotten worse either. And then finally, we're going to provide insights from a centralist, non-biased approach, and purely from data insights here. Okay, we're not going to sort of push any political agenda here in these videos. This is just about a centralist approach, looking at the data, using the data as our truth, and identifying the areas that we think the government could improve. Okay, so just a breakdown of all the different videos that I'll sort of be going through. So in this video today, we're going to be covering the overview of Queensland criminal offence numbers, and we might cover a little bit of video two in video one as well. We'll just see how we're going on time. A consumer spending topic will be sort of the next video after this, and then video four will be other economic indicators that are affecting the Queensland economy. All right, so as I said, the data we're looking at today is from a period of 97 through to 2022. So here we've just got all the different premiers that were in power throughout this period. So Ballbridge, he was the only one there in the National Party, or the LNP merged with the National Party, or Liberal Party merged with the National Party, and they became one. So he had a very short stint there for about a year and a half, 2 years. We saw Beattie come in, and that was a reign of nearly 10 years. And Bligh for another five. And so we really saw it's quite Labor heavy there in the first kind of 15 years um, of the 25 years that we're going to analyse. And we saw Newman come in here from 2012 to 2015, which is probably one of the most unpopular premiers in Queensland, just due to the fact of all the layoffs. People in the public service sort of viewed this as, it was as a threat, if you like, to their job security. And then we had Anastasia Palaszczuk from 2015 to 2023 in more recent times before we recently come in back to Liberal again with David Christodoulou. Okay, so this is what we're going to be analysing here today. So we're going to be looking into prostitution offences, causes of death by driving, total sexual offences versus attempted rape, total kidnapping and abduction, total robbery offences, total fraud offences, trespassing and vagrancy, and the total fraud offences. Again, there's a duplicate there. All right, so what we are going to do now is I'm going to open up our data set. So first one here, we've got our crime offence numbers. So just with this data set here for analysts that are sort of looking in, I want to know how this data was formed. So basically, I took it from the Queensland Government Open Data Portal. Um, the monthly year value here is just a shortened date to what year. And then what I've done here is used the date value formula to clean this up a little bit and get this into sort of more of a short date type of format. And then from there, I've then used the text function to then extract that date, as you can see here. And then I've put in here the 4 months for the function there to sort of uh, get that, convert that through into the full month, because just July there isn't really enough. And then we've used here an if value with some concatenate. So we've taken from the right to get the year um, into 1997. Okay, so and we've sort of had to put a 20 in there because once you get to 2000, you can't just keep putting in 19 because you'll get 1900s for the 2000 and 1901. So we basically said, if it's over 20, if it's 20, then we're just going to pull um, from from the right there and add that on. So if we come down here, there's a little bit of a difference there. Click on that, we can see that we've just pulled from the right there, and we've added 20 for that to get the date lined up there accordingly. All right, so now to the fun part. We come to our Excel dashboard with our data set. So Queensland criminal offences, offence number analysis. So we've got here the list of premiers up here again. For those of you who don't live in Queensland and just want a bit of an idea as to who these people are. But, for the large portion of the data that we're analysing, the Labor government was in power. Okay, so first one here, we've got prostitution offences. So this is the total prostitution offences in Queensland throughout this period. So from this graph here, we can see that prostitution has declined since the late 90s and the early 2000s. So, you can see here that there was a massive spike here in prostitution offences. It was the late 90s, 2000s was at its highest. And this kind of started to get a bit under control here, and it started to trend down, which is a positive for the government. The government have really got on top of that as a crime. Some of the factors that have played into this are factors such as an increased police presence and targeted crackdowns, which has reduced this, and then stricter regulations and licensing requirements, changing labour markets and a rise to online work as has probably contributed to different forms of employment. which is a good thing. We sort of have less of this type of work now. There's opportunities for people to work in different industries. Um, and the changing social attitudes with increased awareness of the exploitation risks within this industry may have contributed to a decrease in demand. It's just the social-based attitude towards, the diversity and inclusion and ensuring that more women have roles in the workplace. This could very much have positive effect here in the negative decline we've seen here with these particular offences. Okay, and I just want to just point out too that it's just you know interpretations based on the data, and everything that's interpreted from the data is just is speculation. I'm not trying to draw a conclusion, without a whole lot of other information. This is sort of just information that matches with the data that's researched. So next we're going to go to causes of death by driving. So here we can see a decline or a downward trend. So you can see here that 56 was the highest in 2003. We saw the most deaths throughout the period of 97 and 2021. If I'm looking here, we know that um, this has been positive due to things the government has performed well, such as road upgrades, investment in road infrastructure. Um, this includes better quality surfaces, signage, um, you know, vehicle safety and technology, or technological advancement in the automobile industry. Have all contributed positively to this. Stricter road safety law enforcement, for an example of this, could be the $1,000 fine in Queensland for driving and talking on your mobile phone, for example. Got a lot sort of stricter, and they've really raised those fines there for things that can cause roadside accidents. We've also got public awareness around youth driver education now. Even with our system, with P-platers and learners having to perform and log more hours, and having to go through that P-plate system before you can get an open license with some restrictions. So that's all contributed quite positively to the causes of death by driving, as there's been a reduction there over this period. So what I can do here now is can come over here to my slicer, and I can have a look at what months are the most dangerous where we haven't seen improvements on our roads. So in Queensland. So if I'm looking down here, I can sort of see that, okay, January and February, January's gone down, February's gone down a little bit, but not as much. March has trended down, April down, May has trended down. Okay, going to June. I'm going to, without uh, drawing anything from the data, I would presumably think that December could be interesting just due to Christmas. July, August has been down. So we've been pretty positive there. It's trended down um, most of the year. Okay, so November, there hasn't been as much of sort of a change there or a decrease. When we look again here, December's pretty good. Okay, that's good. So November is the only month there where we haven't trended down as much, but every other month there it is really positive. So the government have done a really good job there of reducing deaths by driving in Queensland over that period of time. We can't sort of criticise the LNP for that, because those numbers there quite low through the period that they were in power there. So, they've really helped sort of support that. Um, okay, so now we're coming down to total sexual offences versus attempted rape. So we can see here that this is still very much an issue. It's really negative, having a negative impact on the Queensland economy. Some of the factors involved here are increased awareness and support services for victims, may encourage more people to speak up, um, uh, and then improved police responses is probably going to need to happen as well if we want to see a decline in the future. Online exploitation through the rise of dating apps has also kind of contributed to that negatively. You know, could have contributed to it negatively. With the way that people are meeting now, it's a lot more online meeting versus in the late 90s where people were still meeting bar, work, through their local church. And over time, we've seen all that diminish, or through family members, and over time, we've seen that diminish, and we've seen more people meeting through online dating platforms. Um, so another factor that could be contributing to this is increasing population. Um, if the state's experiencing high population growth, it can make it more susceptible to a certain age bracket. Okay, um, but once again, that's just speculation. We couldn't sort of say that that would be a factor for sure, but um, it is negative that we have seen an increase here, and other kind of policies that might be effective here, self-defense programs and other types of programs to ensure safety within the community. Whether it's and then this sort of can also then touch on the whole going down more of a surveillance-based route, but that can be politically quite hard because there's people that don't want to be filmed, and don't want to be tracked everywhere. But further, more sophisticated surveillance around a city or a state can also increase police and law enforcement response times. So, there's probably a few different factors there that you could or policies that you could implement to improve. Um, it is very much subjective to the individual in terms of what they would prefer. So we're going to go back down to next one. We're going to go to total kidnapping and abduction. So this one here was disappointing, if I'm being honest, to see it as negative, just due to the fact that we saw the Daniel Morecambe case was about 2003, I believe, was sort of like around here maybe. Um, and we have seen it sort of come back a little bit here, but we've sort of seen that increase again around 16, 17, 18, and then over the last sort of pre-COVID started to increase and sort of dropped a little bit there in 21, but it's a little bit disappointing there. Um, so, that's something that the government could probably definitely have a bit of a look into. Again, trying to find some ways in improving that. Some of the potential factors that could contribute to this is the socioeconomic disparities, can create conflict, um, and contribute to crime, including kidnapping and abduction. So, if you start getting greater wealth gaps in an economy, uh, there is a chance that that could be more correlated with more abductions, more break-ins, more criminal offences as a whole. So that's something to sort of be wary of. One of the big ones now is online predators. So online predators online that can sort of affect the way that different different people, especially kids, their safety online has become a big thing now. We need to probably the government really needs to crack down and ensure that kids are being safe online, from little kids to teenagers, creating applications and security-based systems to, stop, and then even just education for the kids and programs in schools to ensure that kids are able to identify strangers when using social media, other online platforms with strangers. I mean, it's something that has been around for a while now. We've had kids online for what sort of 20 plus years, but now there's a lot more online platforms that predators can unfortunately target kids. So policies to improve this include, the potential for some improved victim support. This could be in the form of counselling, legal support, while strengthening community awareness. Policies to provide services to educate parents on how to keep their kids safe online. So that's sort of what I just touched on. Just really trying to get that education, that safety and awareness out there to ensure that our kids are safe in our communities. All right. So next we're going to go to total robbery offences in Queensland. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go through this, can go through the months again. I'll just do a little brief one, but it's been pretty stagnant here, which is negative because you would expect, in my opinion, that you would get the total robbery offences down over a period of time. But this can also be contributed to economic downturns, substance abuse, um, once again, socioeconomic disparities, wealth gaps, uh, which is something that the government's just going to have to sort of focus on improving in the future, especially the LNP now they're in charge. So we're going January. You can see here it's not too much. February, okay, so February has actually dropped, so that's good. March, we've seen a decrease, which is positive. April and May, okay, so we've seen a few decreases there. So what are the target months where in Queensland Queenslanders are most likely to get robbed? Okay, so still a decrease. Okay, so September, there's an increase straight away there. So there's an upward increase here in this period of time. It's also really increased here from 17 onwards. Um, and then we're having a look here, October stagnant, so September, November, December. Okay, so September and December's been pretty stagnant there, not a lot of improvement. So you're probably looking at September there for the most total robbery offences in Queensland. Um, economic downturns and unemployment. When the unemployment rate goes up, this can also contribute to this problem. Um, Therefore, if the government was to let unemployment go up by too much due to um, you know interest rates going down and inflation staying up too high, and businesses are struggling, having to sort of having to lay off workers or put more workers on contracts. And that all contributes to higher unemployment rate throughout the economy. So next, we're going to go to total fraud offences. So coming down here, we can sort of see that um, fraud fraud wise, we have sort of been up and down here. It's not really hasn't been sort of great. It's kind of neutral. It's not hasn't really improved a lot. In 2019, it was pretty similar to what it was here in 2001. So or even 99. So in a 20-year period, we haven't really seen improvements there with fraud offences. I'm sure we've probably, the government has worked on it, but, with the increase of, online transactions again, all that can play out in a rise. So it is neutral, but I'm sure the government has tried to make improvements here. So the rise of technology has created new avenues for fraud. This falls under more developed cybersecurity measures in business. Law enforcement are having trouble keeping up with the fraudster tactics. Globalization and interconnectedness means it's easier for fraudsters to operate across borders, in addition to an aging population, where fraudsters typically target the vulnerable and the elderly. Policies to control this, once again, more the educational awareness campaigns to ensure that the elderly are protected and educated on what to identify when shopping online, or who to give their details to. Okay, we've got two more to go. We're just going to go through this for today, and the second video we'll touch on in the coming days or weeks. So we've got trespassing here and vagrancy. So what we can see here is this is pretty negative. It's increased over time. There was 5,602 cases here in 2021. And when we started here in 97, there was only 891. Okay, so this probably comes back to the homelessness problem. The sort of the wealth gap increase again, rising sort of social inequality. Um, so, rising housing costs could have contributed to this. It could be job insecurity. It could be increased urbanisation, displacing people from their homes. As we sort of build up more cities and urbanise and develop, this can, generate more demand from an immigration-based perspective. It could be people coming from other states to a particular city. It could be people coming internationally, immigrating to Australia into a particular city, and then the people who lived in that city, that were particular, maybe renting for 10, 20 years, prices go up because there's a surge in demand. If the supply of housing can't meet the demand, then we see a price increase there. So could very much contribute into trespassing and vagrancy. Um, Once again, if we're looking at policies to prevent this, it could be spending money on mental health and drug treatment for homeless people, in addition to social support services that provide vulnerable population food, shelter, and job training, trying to get them upskilled a little bit and them back into workforce if possible. Um, so it's been a bit of a negative there, and that will feed into the housing crisis. All right, last graph here for today. So total fraud offences breakdown by year. So we can sort of see here that we've got a couple of different types of fraud. We've got identity, we've got credit card, check, and computer. So over a period of time, computers actually been pretty low relative to other things like credit card, for example. Credit card's been quite prominent throughout the whole period. Little decreases here through the middle sort of 2000s, and we sort of have seen increases here, there. Sort of 5 years ago, it's been pretty prominent, quite high. Other types of fraud have been up pretty much the whole time. And identity fraud, that has increased here, sort of from 2016 onwards quite a lot. And that would be once again due to the rise of the internet, cybersecurity issues. It's a real global issue at the moment, data and privacy issues for both individuals and businesses and firms. Companies that are sort of acting as data brokers and selling people's personal information to other companies, acquiring more and more of people's personal data types. So that's something there that definitely probably could be addressed a little bit better. If I'm looking at a different month here, we can sort of see, is there any other month that it's been higher than others? But if we want to look at it here, 21 was lower than past sort of 5 years before that. However, we don't have the latest data here to know recently where we're sort of sitting there. Just one other thing that I sort of just want to sort of point out before we finish up today is coming down here to some of this, when the LNP was in last time, credit where it's due. This was pretty low here. And then again, what was Newman 12 to 15? So he dropped it here. It was a bit higher here, but then he dropped it down here. So that's okay. He was he dropped the robbery offences down. This could be contributed to bikie laws that Newman put in place. So, credit where it's due. Um, and then we're looking here again. Okay, well, the fraud offences, they kind of went up through the LMP's reign there. I'm sort of pointing out the LNP because the rest of the time they're predominantly a Labor Party. So, if we look at what the LNP did last term, we can kind of see, what they did well last time and point that out. I can't really see anything it's a real cause of concern yet. Trespassing and vagrancy, um, when the LNP was in last time, it was 12 up to 15, so we saw an increase there. So that's probably the first negative there on the graphs that I can see with the LNP. And, some people might argue that, well, that was due to, capitalism, for example. And, if there is a correlation between trespassing and vagrancy and homelessness, then I would say that would be a fair assumption. But yeah, it's all kind of just a matter of breaking it all down and fraud offences down here. Again, we sort of it wasn't too bad there. I mean, they sort of went up a little bit, but yeah, nothing to sort of note there. So that's the first analysis there for today, guys, in Excel on a dashboard for the Queensland criminal offence numbers across Queensland. Let me know what you think. Place your comments and questions down below, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Take care.